Now this one here is going to be kind of a 2-for-1. Two somewhat separate videos into this one. But I'm starting off with the most ridiculous one. If this ain't the American way, nowadays, I don't know what is. We might as well ask Puerto Rico to just become a 51st state of this union based off of what decision they just made. And I'm also going to use a quote that I love to use from George Bush Jr., Dodo Bird Bush. Truly American. Truly American. Or our outlined territories, if you will. Broke Puerto Rico. You know, I've covered that a few times, right? Last 3 or 4 months, I've covered Puerto Rico, can't pay their debt, not going to pay their debt, sorry about your luck. Well, where'd that come from? I heard Greece, and now, remember that? Puerto Rico comes out of nowhere? Where the hell did that come from? Broke Puerto Rico. You're going to love this. Pays out $120 million in Christmas bonuses. You know me, old J Step 4 loves a bonus. I love to throw a bonus. But my bonuses aren't $120 million. My bonus is like a stupid joke or something. Last week, the market got some good, and good is a relative term here according to Zero Hedge, news with regard to Puerto Rico's debt crisis. The Commonwealth, which you'll recall is struggling to crawl from beneath a debt pile that sums around $70 billion, managed to strike a deal with PREPA's creditors in the monolines that will see bondholders and lenders accept losses of 15%, with the insurers putting up a $450 million surety bond. PREPA owes more than $8 billion, and the deal will represent the largest restructuring in municipal history. As we noted on Friday, the island hopes the agreement will serve as a framework for discussions with other creditors, but Puerto Rico isn't out of the woods yet by any stretch of the imagination. The PREPA process was relatively smooth because the interests were fairly aligned on both sides. Triet Ewan, a managing director at New Oak Capital, told Bloomberg, quote, "When you get to the rest of the debt complex, it's a much messier process." As Bloomberg goes on to note, Puerto Rico could default before Congress returns from their New Year recess. The Commonwealth needs to make almost a $1 billion payment or interest payment that's due on January 1st, and some of what's due is GO debt. The catch-22 for Governor Alejandro Padilla is that the more debt is successfully restructured, the less inclined Congress will be to allow bankruptcies. Quote, "The argument that's been made in favor of Chapter 9 is that it's the only means through which an organized, non-chaotic approach to Puerto Rico's debt crisis can be put in place," end quote. Mark Palmer, a managing director at BTIG LLC, told Bloomberg by phone before noting that the PREPA deal would argue otherwise. And here's Padilla underscoring just how messy things are likely to get. He says the vast number of creditors with differing interests across all issuing entities would result in negotiations that are lengthy, costly, and chaotic. Access to legal, broad restructuring authority would allow us to undertake these in an orderly manner. End quote. Additionally, the use of revenue clawback to pay some $354 million that came due on December 1st suggests creditors may have to fight for scarce funds. Quote, "While Puerto Rico's general obligation bonds are given priority under its constitution, others are backed only by specific taxes or revenue," Bloomberg adds. Creditors are gearing up for a fight over who gets paid first. All of this raises questions about how the island will manage to provide public services and make government payrolls without risking a default on GO debt, which would trigger painful litigation. As we noted last month, Padilla could face social unrest in the event people stop getting paid. Puerto Rico's liquidity strains are serious and will likely create greater levels of public unrest into year-end. Height Securities analyst Daniel Hansen cautions, adding that the island's treasury single account likely has a negative cash balance, making it nearly impossible to meet all government payroll obligations. Well, as we head into the holidays, bondholders will be less than pleased to learn that Puerto Rico has just paid out $120 million in Christmas bonuses. And here's Reuters. Debt-ridden Puerto Rico started paying Christmas bonuses to public employees on Sunday and aims to complete the process within the next 3 days, the Commonwealth government said. It had been unable to confirm for weeks if it could meet the December 20th deadline required under a 1969 law for the seasonal bonus. The payments total about $120 million, government officials said earlier this month. Bonuses will be paid to government officials and regular employees of at least 6 months, and irregular employees who had worked at least 960 hours in a 12-month period. We imagine this will temporarily keep the villagers from storming the castle with torches and pitchforks, but make no mistake, the creditors are going to be beating down the door come January, and they're going to want a whole lot more than $120 million. Additionally, we wonder how many of the employees receiving bonuses were involved in the fiscal mismanagement that got the island into its current debt conundrum. And I'm going to say I strongly agree to it. I wonder how many of these Puerto Rican government officials made some nice little backroom deals and did their little dance, a little money in their back pocket, to find out that they made a decision that was terrible, got the government or the people in more debt, and now I want a bonus for doing it. Throw me a freaking bonus, as Dr. Evil said one time. Or do they know, for some reason, that maybe there's a little plan in their little knock, knock, knock next door neighbor, America? Hey, it's your neighbor. Can I borrow? You got some sugar? Or flour? Or $70 billion I could borrow? No? Or maybe they know it's already on the table. There's already talks about it, and they're going to get taken care of by the U.S. government. We will do a bailout for Puerto Rico. Maybe them government officials in Puerto Rico know, oh, we're going to get bailed out. You all may not know that. News may not know about that. But we know about it. And since we know there's about to be a bailout, let's give ourselves a bonus. Which will then make you say, if this is true, my little thoughts, just an opinion here, that let's just say they will get bailed out by the U.S., then we all have to sit back here in the U.S. and say, well, hold on. They gave a $120 million bonus. Why are we funding that? Why is, again, the taxpayer funding that crap? That's assuming it happens. We may find that doesn't happen all like that, and they literally can't pay their bills, and they default, and they file for bankruptcy, and tell the creditor, sorry about your luck, go pound sand. And if that's how it ends, it's going to make you think, hold on a minute. Did they actually take the people's side this time? Gave them bonuses and then told the creditors to go pound sand? Greece didn't even do that. Right? Iceland didn't even do that. And they've turned their whole system around. They're great. Iceland's doing phenomenal. They didn't even do something like that. So it makes you wonder, right? I mean, it really makes you wonder what's going to happen here. But, the first time I heard this, Puerto Rico, $70 billion, where the hell did that come from? It goes to show you how from 1 second, everything's fine, the budget appears to be balanced, and everything, GDP, Puerto Rico's are good, and then all of a sudden, bang, we're $70 billion in the hole, we can't pay it. What? 70 billion? What? Where were you when? What were you guys doing when you were 5 billion in the hole? Was anyone running around then trying to make some budgetary changes and some changes somehow? Nah. Now we were partying like it was 1999. All right, what about when it was 10 billion, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 70? That's around the time we realized we couldn't even pay the interest on that payment. And that's why you're finding out about it now. Ooh, sorry about that. So, got Greece, still a problem. Now Spain, as you just saw from my other video, huge problem for the EU. They're in debt crisis mode. They just had a election, as you will recall from my last video. And the people who won, all of a sudden the former government doesn't have the majority anymore, and they've got another group that came in that appears to be for the people, anti-austerity. We don't want to play that game. We're not making our people suffer. One of those things again. It's Greece 2.0, except on a scale of like GDP and how important of a country Spain is to the EU versus Greece. This is Greece, and this is Spain. Tiny difference there. So Puerto Rico, on the other hand, has nothing. Nothing will change in America if Puerto Rico fell off the face of the earth today. Nothing would happen. But there's a whole lot of people on Puerto Rico for the little island that it is. Not necessarily a huge amount, to be honest with you. I don't know if I should say there's a whole lot. Let's just verify this, just so we know. Puerto Rico. Population. Just out of curiosity, just curious. Puerto Rico population. Can we? Wikipedia, you're killing me. Okay, here we go. Historical population: 3.5 million in 2014. 3.7 million in 2010. So for those 4 years, 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, they actually lost quite a few Puerto Ricans. And the funny thing here is that in the year 2000, there was 3.8 million, which is the most on this chart. So from 3.8 million down to 3.7 in 2010, down to 3.5 in 2014. And I want you to think about that for 1 second. 3.5 million people. And again, let me just, while I'm here. By the way, now that I'm talking for so long, this is going to be one video. I'll do the other thing I want to talk about in a video after this. Population of Hillsborough County, Florida. 1.29 million people. Okay, now we're talking about 3.5 million people, right? 3.5 million in Puerto Rico, 1.29 or 1.3 in Hillsborough County, Florida. Not the state of Florida, Hillsborough County, Florida, the Tampa area. So, in other words, take 2 Tampas, double that, you pretty much get the number we're looking for. 3.5 million people. $70 billion debt black hole they can't pay off. How in the hell can that amount of money be squandered so bad? And no one ever raised a red flag. This must have been going on for decades. And the second they can't make the interest payment on that debt, that's when it comes out. That's when we finally hear about it. How in the hell is that possible? $70 billion for 3.5 million people. That is an unbelievable amount of debt. I would love to see the books on that. Where in the hell, where is this money going? What have you spent it on? What in the hell is going on? 3.5 million people. Are you freaking kidding me? Unfreaking believable. Take care.